but I know there's a lot of caveats to it. Like also look into like the rules, which I've given you screenshots of all that too, but you could research it yourself. But tell me, based on the rules, based on the actual numbers here, and then also research the trading fees or any other fees associated with this. Do you think that there's any arbitrage opportunities here to be had? And how exactly would you play this? How much money would we need? How much profit will we make? How much would the fees cost? Are there any additional risks around the rules? Are the rules apples to apples? Or are they a little bit different? Or what other risks do you see here? And do you think that this would be a profitable endeavor to do arbitrage on this? And let's see what it says.
My Gemini is basically saying if you put on $10,000 split between the two, you could make $888 roughly conservatively with slippage and stuff
That's amazing.
on the 10th of
That's
July.
like free money. You know what I mean? That's risk-free money. So you put in $10,000, you get 800 bucks by July 3rd, by July 10th, you're saying?
Yeah, the July 10 one seems to have like a nine, yeah, like a big difference between the two.
So that's 800 bucks on 10K. That's what, 8%, I think, over 18 days. Like, holy shit, that's one hell of a return. No? Like, if you can
So no,
compound that, like, what does that come out to as an annual return? That's like got to be in like the thousands.
yeah, assuming there's no weird way you could just lose on both and then you've lost 10
Right.
grand.
Right. That's why I'm getting Codex to look into this because I had Gemini do this yesterday and it was telling me like, oh, there's all these other things that you might want to watch out for, whatever. And that's why I'm getting Codex to do because I know Codex is going to do a better job around this. It's going to be more thorough and research everything. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably a lot of ways to make money with Polymarket, right? Like I said, it's a brand new, essentially market, brand new broker, right? And usually when that happens, there's a lot of potential opportunities. And arbitrage is the most obvious one that you start with, right? But then there's like you do statistical arbitrage, then there's like, information asymmetries that you could look at, right? Like maybe there's some way that you could get a data source where you have an edge over other people, right? Like there's so many things I think that we could do to make money in Polymarket and Kalshi. I think it'd be a very interesting thing to do. And they actually have really good APIs. So I think we probably get it up and running very quickly. And they provide a lot of the data for free. So it's not going to be like we spent all this time working on futures data because it's such a pain in the ass to get the data. But I don't think we're gonna have the same problem with Polymarket or Kalshi. I think we probably get this up and running pretty quickly and probably get to monetize it pretty fast too. So I think it's a pretty cool thing to work on personally. Yeah.
But yeah, we wouldn't be able to backtest, I assume, and we'd have to run it live. Well, we wouldn't have to run it live.
Um,
We
we might be able to backtest. It depends on if we can get the data. I think we can. I think we can get historical data, and I think we probably could backtest it.
I almost wouldn't trust it. I think the only thing I would trust is real money, just because there's got to be some other catch, is what it feels like. We could prove to ourselves in backtest scenario, but it feels dodgy unless we're using real money and seeing it happen. Maybe not with $10,000, but like there's nothing stopping us doing $10 and just seeing it. Because the real power would be to get the code to go and do it across a whole bunch of different um
Right,
things.
right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the more that I go through our website, the more that I talk to like new customers that come to us naturally, the more I realize a lot of people want to go straight to real cash. Like a lot of people actually surprisingly don't want to backtest, like which is kind of flips my perspective on this a little bit. But I'm perfectly fine with getting this thing to be able to like place trades. I wonder if we have 2 hours, if we could actually get it to start placing trades within the next 2 hours, you know, I think that there's a possibility of doing that.
feel like I've talked myself into being more interested into it. Whereas initially I was like, I don't need another thing to get distracted with. I don't need another shiny toy. But
Yeah.
this is actually quite interesting.
It definitely is a bit of a shiny toy, but I think that there's a lot of opportunities here. This is why I've been kind of been thinking about it a lot because again, every time that there's this new type of marketplace or new market, there usually tends to be a lot of inefficiencies in the first couple months and years, right? Like back in the day when we started Voyager with Bitcoin, arbitrage opportunities were so easy to come by. Like literally when we launched our app, I was just pressing buy and then sell, buy and then sell. And I made like $2,000 in our app doing that for like 2 hours before our CEO kind of said, knock it off, like stop doing that, you know, because he didn't want to piss off our clients or our vendors. But yeah, it was so easy to make money in crypto back in the day. And now it's so much harder, right? Because those opportunities disappear because everyone, the competition gets rid of it, right? But what I'm seeing in prediction markets is it's kind of like the early days of crypto, you know? So I think that'd be a pretty interesting thing to do if you guys want to do it.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
run the AI.
I like arbitrage, you
Yeah,
know. I mean, if you got it, you got it. But one thing that does worry me a little, I mean, I'm not familiar with these markets at all. But what if like once one of the, I've heard these things where sometimes they won't pay out because there's the way the thing is worded or whatever.
yeah,
I mean, in this case, it's probably not going to happen, but I mean, it's sort of counterparty risk that is the worry here, right?
absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what I gave to Codex. That's what I said. Read over the
Oh,
rules too, right? Because it's not just about like, does it seem like it's there, but like, is this actually an apples to apples comparison, right? Because you can read the rules here. This is the rules for Poly Market. It says will resolve to yes if the GPT 5.6 model is made available. Otherwise, the markets will resolve to no. GPT 5.6 refers to a product named GPT 5.6 or a variant that is recognized as a direct successor to 5.5, similar to progression, da da da. Right. So the question is, for example, in this one, if GPT 5.6 came out, what would that resolve to? Right? Is that a yes or a no? Right. And then same thing with here in Kalshi, right? So it's saying, where does it say exactly this? Underlying contract. Oh, this is just general rules. Um, resolves yes if OpenAI releases a model called 5.6 or greater, right? Whereas this one's saying named 5.6 or a variant that is recognized as a direct successor to 5.5. So this one seems pretty obvious that it's either going to be called 5.6 or 6. And it like either one should work for Kalshi. But the question is that going to be the same thing with Polymarket, right? Because the wording here is a bit, I think, a little vague, right? It's
right.
saying recognized as a direct successor. So would GPT-6 be a direct successor or not? Right? I think that's a little wishy-washy here.
I think the other thing is, what if they release it and then it gets blocked by the government and then it's not publicly accessible anymore? Would that resolve differently as well?
And just reading these rules, I don't think so because I think it just happens when it's released. There's nothing to say that it like if it gets pulled out or whatever afterwards. It was released, so that did happen, right? That's at least that's the way that I'm interpreting it, right? But yeah, I mean that is definitely a risk here, right? That it's the like if there's arbitrage around crypto or stocks or whatever, those are like exactly the same thing, whereas these are similar, very similar, but technically a little bit different, right? So I think if we were to do like an arbitrage thing like this, that would have to be like a hard rule. Like the rules have to match, right? Or you know what? There might even be like a creative way of getting around that, right? Like maybe what it is that even if the rules are different, in some ways that might even be to our advantage, right? Because you could like place double bets here or like you know what I mean? Like there's like based on the differences in rules, there might be even further arbitrage opportunities that we could do that are just rule-based arbitrage opportunities, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe the AI team can come in here and do something with the rules across the two.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be straightforward to figure out if it's an acceptable um variation between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think we would have to use some sort of AI model here. I think that would be a mandatory thing. Fully agree with that. Yeah, and we'd probably also want to use like a pretty powerful model. Like I personally would want to use like a GPT 5.5 or something like that. Something that's like actually quite smart that could like really reason around that.
Alternatively, we have a I'm not sure how if we can go through all the different markets that are available and try and match them up and then classify them beforehand of what we'll accept the bot to touch, and then we don't have to do it on the fly each time.
Yeah, yeah, like some sort of pre-processing, right?
Yeah, because there'll be some things that are like safer than others.
Right.
So the outcome of sporting matches is, rarely going to cause too much
Right.
controversy.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. That's actually a really interesting one. So let's say World Cup. Okay, let's say okay, June 23rd. I guess this one's going on right now. Colombia and Congo, right? Colombia and Congo. Let's see. So Polymarket is saying 64 Colombia and Kalshi is saying 65 Colombia, right? There's an arbitrage opportunity, right? It's off by 1%, right? So you can go here. Actually, I guess you'd have to, it's a little bit more complicated. Yeah, actually, I guess, yeah. This one's saying 65.36. This one's saying 64.37, right? So I bet you there's also an arbitrage opportunity here. Just the question is it still going to work net of fees, right?
Yeah,
Right. And then the thing is that if you have something that's monitoring it fast enough, right? Like you're checking every 1 second or whatever, these dislocations might happen pretty quickly, right? Like one might spike and the other one stays, and then you could just take advantage of that, right? So like for example, like some sort of world event happens, right? Let's say um one thing I was thinking about, is like the Federal Reserve chair, right? Um it was saying one thing and then all of a sudden Trump said something on TV and the market moves wildly in one direction, right? Like if you could capture that fast enough, you could see that maybe Poly market moved faster than Kalshi. So you can like bet one way on Kalshi, bet it the other way on Poly market. And because that dislocation happened only quickly, like you probably only have like seconds or minutes to do that, but you lock that in and that could be a very positive thing as well, right?
yeah. Because I imagine if like a goal scored in a
Right. Which
game
one
that's in
reacts faster?
progress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe Polymarket reacts faster than Kalshi. So, you place one bet on Polymarket, the other one on Kalshi, and you lock in that arbitrage, right? But you only have like a few seconds to do it, right? But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Like, I actually think this is probably much easier to set up than futures. This is obviously going to be more work than like just building a strategy. This is building like an architecture behind it. But I think we could probably do this. Like, I don't think this would be such a hard thing to do. You know, like I think we probably knocked this out in a couple of hours pretty fast, you know? Yeah. So anyways, food for thought. This is something that I was looking into at like today or yesterday, and like I was like, you know what? I actually think we could probably make some money doing this. So if that's possible, and what you were talking about, if there's an 8%, if you can make 8% in 2 weeks, like that is one hell of a return on an annualized basis, you know? Okay, here it is. Okay, bottom line, I would not treat this as real arbitrage. There's a couple positive looking pairs, but they are rule-based trades, not locked profit hedges. Best looking trade by Kalshi, yes, before July 31st at 90 cents, and no, July 31st at 6.3 cents. For 100 contracts, capital about $97, fees 87 cents, payout $100. So parent profit $2.83, right? So only about 10 book size. Okay, there's another interesting one. Book size, only about 10 contracts. So the actual executable profit is 28 cents. That is not worth the rule risk, right? Why is this not clean? The rules are not apples to apples. Kalshi says before July 31st. Polymarket says by July 31st Eastern Time. If GPT-6 launches on July 31st at Kalshi's cutoff, Kalshi's yes can lose, while Polymarket no also loses. Okay, because before 31st or by, right? That's a little detail, right? Like I didn't even notice that. Because what if it happens right on July 31st? Um,
I imagine they do that on purpose.
Maybe they
So
might, but there's no way they could do that with everything, you know? And one thing that we could do to get around this, for example, is we could just sell it on July 30th. Just don't wait until July 31st, right? The same date, July 10th trade does not work. So locked loss before rule risk. How I'd play it. I mostly would not play it. If you want a tiny. Okay, so you're saying that the risk is before July 31st or by July 31st, and that's a very interesting thing here. What if we just like sold it on July 30th? Like, why don't we just not wait until July 31st? Right? Because we don't have to hold it until completion, right? We could probably sell it throughout, right? And if it makes a profit, just sell on both. Yeah. Anyways, food for thought. I think it's an interesting thing to work on. It's something I noticed the other day that I thought could be a pretty interesting thing to work on. Cool. Anything else you guys would want to add to this list, or do you think maybe we should just take a vote right now and then we could actually get started on something? Yeah, okay. So yes, that is the right instinct. Sell before the bad window moves, but also means no longer a resolution arbitrage. It becomes a mark-to-market convergence trade, which is a statistical arbitrage in a sense, right? Combined exit value. Yeah, it's very interesting. At the very least, I think this is an interesting thing to think about, right? Okay. So do you guys want to start the survey? And then we can get this kicked off. We're quite deep into it today. So it'd be good to actually like get started on something, right?
Yeah, it sounds a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. So I launched the survey. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and vote on that. And then let's take a quick break. Let's say come back in like 10, 15 minutes, and then whatever you guys want to work on, let's do that, all right? Okay. All right. So I'll see you guys back here in about 10, 15 minutes.